back to my channel. I hope that you're doing well. Welcome to another video and welcome to a year-long romance bingo challenge. If you have been around my channel for a while, you know that bingo is kind of my thing. I think I've made it my whole brand at this point. It's my identity, and I felt like I was amiss by not doing a year-long round bingo challenge. I love a good bingo board. I think that they are so fun and they're always so motivating to pick up books that I wouldn't normally pick up, or pick up books just to fulfill some prompts that are fun and easy. But I think that doing them every single month sometimes can be stressful. So I decided to put something together for my fellow romance readers that will give you the opportunity to fill up a bingo board that you can either do every single month if you want to, or as a year-long challenge to just hit some prompts, have some fun, and read some wonderful romance books. So I just wanted to use today as an opportunity to show you the board, go through every prompt, and give you some recommendations for some books that might fit in case you are having trouble fulfilling the prompt or need a few extra recommendations, or ones that you know that I love and you maybe want to try. And then as for like how to get a bingo, how to win, you can honestly do this any way that you want to. Like I said, you could do it every month or every quarter or all year round. You can double up on prompts, or you can choose to read a book for every single prompt. If you want to stop once you get a bingo, that's great. If you decide that you want to black out the board, that's awesome. If you just want to use it as a tool to read more romance throughout the year and have no goals towards finishing it at all, that's fine too. I just kind of wanted to provide a space to use a fun bingo board, read some romance, and have fun. So without further ado, let's go ahead and pop up the board. Let's talk about every space, give some recommendations, and then hopefully 2024 will be the year where you read some fantastic romance and fill out a bingo board. So here is the bingo board. I personally, maybe I'm biased, I love it. I think it's great. It's giving, cutesy romance vibes, but I feel like the prompts hopefully will give you a lot of different options of what you can read. And even if you don't read a certain subgenre of romance, you can still make it work. So I started off the board with one of my favorite tropes, and I feel like this trope has grown on me, so I'm hoping that you guys like it as much as I do, and that is second chance romance. And for that, you could read a number of things. Again, if you're like a fantasy reader and you want to use this as like a fantasy romance option, you could do that as well. But I chose mostly romance. Some fantasy romance is trickled in here, but the ones I'm choosing to show off today are all strictly romances, and they're just all fun, cute vibes, and I just think that hopefully you'll like them. I also tried to recommend books that I've read so that you know that you're getting a good recommendation, a good endorsement on these books. So we have Whispers of You by Catherine Cowles, Second Chance Romance, Grip by Kennedy Ryan, one of my favorite books and my favorite author of all time. This is Second Chance. And then The Plight Before Christmas, if you're looking to read something during the holidays and you haven't already read this one, it's a great second chance romance. Up next, we're going to be continuing a series. If you're anything like me, you have many a series going around and need some more extra motivation and extra push to continue on with those series. So any book that is a part of a series will work. Interconnected standalones work, small novellas work. Anything that is furthering you along in a series is good to go. Up next, we have cute cover, and again, this is a prompt that's going to be subjective. I just figured I would pull some of my cute covers and show them off. We have In the Weeds by Miss B.K. Morrison, Elle Kennedy's The Deal, the new covers, and then Romance Book Club by Alyssa K. Adams. I think all three of these covers are really gorgeous, and just a good reason to read a good, cute book. It doesn't have to be illustrated. Whatever you deem cute totally works. Our next prompt is LGBTQI plus rep, and there are so many options for this, but I just picked three that I really, really love. So we have Losers Part 1 by Harley LaRoe. This is one that is white choose, but there are some LGBTQI plus relationships that are happening in this book, and it's definitely a good one. Give Me More is a polyamorous relationship that has two characters that are exploring their bisexuality, which is always fun. And then Wolf Song by TJ Klune, my first fantasy romance in this list, but it definitely counts and is a great romance series in my opinion. The next prompt is an emotional read, and again, this is going to be subjective, whatever makes you emotional, but I pulled some of my favorite emotional reads. The first one that I have is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, such a good one. And then we have Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan, so emotional, but so good. Again, check the trigger warnings for all the books that I mentioned in the emotional or dark categories. Check those triggers. And then of course we have one of the most emotional books I've ever read, and that is Still Bleeding by Jennifer Hartman. Definitely a dark one, but so good. Then we have a book that is a brand new release. This could be anything that is up to your interpretation that you deem brand new. It could be a 2023 release that you didn't get to, but it's still new to you. It could come out in 2024. It could be the newest book from that author. Use it to your interpretation. You can make it work however you want, but a new release. Up next, I have one for the fantasy readers, and that is to read a fantasy romance. I feel like Fantasy romance has really popped off in the last few years. I personally love a good fantasy romance, and I just feel like it's finally getting the recognition that it deserves. So I'm gonna give some like, you know, quintessential fantasy romances if you haven't already read them, but there are so many out there that I think you should definitely pick up. So we of course have A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas, the, you know, staple for fantasy romance. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros definitely falls into the category of fantasy romance. And finally, one of my favorites, Rhapsodic by Loretta Lassa, the first book in the Bargainer series. Such a good, smutty fantasy romance series. Now we are talking about one of my favorite tropes of all time. There are very few books that do this wrong, and when it hits. And that is fake dating. I love a good fake dating story, and I have so many that I could have recommended, but I chose some of my favorites. We have Hopeless by L.D. Silver, the last book in the Chestnut Springs series. These are interconnected standalones, so if you want to read it out of order, you can definitely read this one first. I recommend reading them in order, so if you're up to Hopeless, this is a great one for that, but oh, it's just so good. We also have The Right Move by Liz Tomford. This is probably one of my favorite fake dating stories I have ever read. It's so freaking good, and this man can do no wrong. And then we have That Kind of Guy by Stephanie Archer, the first book in the Queen's Cove series, and I really enjoyed this fake dating story. The next prompt is a book that is high up on your TBR list. So just an anticipated read, maybe a book that's on your 24 and 24, or a series that you want to complete, or just an anticipated release that you're looking forward to, anything that's at the top of your TBR. Another prompt that I personally love so much, and that is a sports romance. Something about sports and romance just hits. I don't really like sports, but put it in a romance book, and I eat that shit up. So the first one that we have is Offside by Avery Keelan. This is a hockey romance. Mile High by Liz Tomford, the first book in the Windy City series, and this is a hockey romance as well, I believe. Yes, I don't know why, for some reason the sport went out of my brain, but this is hockey romance. And then I guess I only recommend hockey romances on this channel, but we have Pucking Around by Emily Rath, a Why Choose hockey romance. So if you're doubling up on prompts, this is a great one. It's a hockey romance, it's LGBTQI+, and it's also a Why Choose. Our next prompt is a monster romance, and this one is a little tough because I know a lot of people don't like to read the out there crazy monster romances. So you could definitely choose something like The Marionettes. This is a vampire witch romance. I would definitely categorize vampires as monsters, so if you want to read more of like a paranormal romance, I think it counts. Or you could read something that is like definitely strictly like more monster, like The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. I don't know if this one is a good one. I have not read it. I don't have a ton of monster romances on my shelves, but I've heard really good things about this one. It recently got traditionally published, so if you're looking for one to pick up, that might be the one for you. And then my favorite monster romance to recommend is actually Lady of Rooksgrave Manor. It is a White Shoes romance with a lot of different monsters, but it's definitely very sex positive. It's very spicy. It's a bit on the longer side, but it's so good. Up next, we have a prompt that can be a little confusing, so I definitely want to clarify this one, and this is to read a book with dual timelines, but like not in their perspective, or I guess honestly you could interpret this any way you want. You could do something like a dual timeline, like Maybe Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. That one definitely has dual timelines, but the way that I interpreted this prompt is like a book that is kind of like flashing back to the past. So the ones I'm recommending today have that aspect to it, but interpret this any way you want. I'm bringing you back The Fight Before Christmas because this does have flashbacks in it. Rewrite Our Story by Kat Singleton also has flashbacks. It's a second chance romance, and I feel like a lot of second chance romances do things like this. Second Chance Romance Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan also has flashback scenes. And a book that I didn't really love, but I know a lot of people do, is Funny You Should Ask. That also has like flashback dual timeline scenes as well. So there are a lot of options out there, but again, you don't have to do something like that. You could do something that actually has a dual timeline. Then we have The Free Space. It's just an easy win for you if you are looking to get a full bingo. Then we have Friends to Lovers, another trope that I'm really learning to love this year, and I have so many good ones that I want to recommend, but I did narrow it down to 3, even though I had so many that I wanted to share. The first one is Love Light Farms by B.K. Borson. This is hands down my favorite Friends to Lovers romance I have ever read, and if you're looking to pick something up during the wintertime, if you're using this all year round, this is the perfect book for this prompt. Then we have Crazy Stupid Romance, the third book in the Romance Book Club series. This one is a Friends to Lovers, and it's so good. We have a nerdy main character and a very strong female character. I loved it, and if you have not picked up the series yet, it is a must read, and I love book 3. And then we have a bit of a darker and more intense and emotional read. We have Lotus by Jennifer Hartman. This is a Friends to Lovers romance, but definitely deals with some darker topics, so check the trigger warnings. Our next prompt is a little bit different and kind of a fun one, and that is to read a book that features a cameo from another series. So this could be interpreted in a lot of different ways, but I did pull 3 that I know for sure have a few different cameos. So I have the Tate James world. She has 4 series that are set in the Shadow Grove world. The first one being Madison Kate. Madison Kate does tease and cameo the second book in the series, which is the Hades series. the Hades series cameos the Madison Kate series, as well as the next series in this world, which is the Guild series, and so on and so forth. So it does have cameos from every series that she has written in this world. Kennedy Ryan loves to do a little sneaky cameo, and if you haven't read them, sometimes you don't get them, but they're definitely in there. This book in particular is the first one that I read from her, and I really realized that there was cameos. In this book, you see these two characters go to a Grip concert, and Grip is an entire trilogy on its own, featuring Grip and Bristol, and he is a rapper. So there's definitely some cameos, and I have seen it in at least 2 or 3 of her other series where she mentions other characters from her other series. And then we have the Kings of Sin series, which is set in the same world as the Twisted series by Anna Huang. I do remember specifically you do meet the character from the first book in the series, King of Wrath, in the Twisted series, and then you see little cameos from the Twisted characters in these books as well, and it's just so much fun, like, to see those little snippets of characters that you've already known and love. So that's always just so fun. So I wanted to include that prompt. Thank you to Nikki for giving me some really incredible prompts. This is one of hers, and honestly, it was so good. Our next prompt, as you guys know, is a favorite of mine, but I feel like you could interpret this in many different ways, and this is to read a book with multiple love interests. So for me, I choose to interpret that as a why choose, but I know that there are a lot of readers out there that don't get down with the why choose craziness. So that's totally fine. I am going to recommend some books that don't necessarily fall into that category, but still fit the prompt. So the first one I'm going to recommend is Flock by Kate Stewart. This does have some polyamory mixed into the series, but I wouldn't categorize this as a why choose. There are just multiple love interests introduced throughout the series. We have a true why choose, and that is Poison Roses by Tate James and Jamin Eve. This is a full-on rock star why choose romance, so definitely falls under one that I would love, but maybe not for everybody. And then you could also read something like The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes that has a love triangle. Or like I mentioned before, you could do maybe Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid that does have 2 love interests, but on 2 different timelines. There are a lot of different ways to interpret this, and feel free to use your creative freedom to fulfill this prompt. Another tried and true prompt here is Enemies to Lovers, and I feel like this is one of those prompts that you can kind of find it in everything if you look, and I love a good Enemies to Lovers story. I do have some here that are true bangers for me. The first one being Honey Trap by Tate James, the 3rd series in her Shadow Grove world, but the first book in that series, and that is the Guild series. I love this, and one of the main characters falls in love with her Mark, who is literally her enemy. It's so good. It's such a good Enemies to Lovers romance, and I love Tate James so much. Then I have like what I feel like is like a classic Enemies to Lovers, and that is Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. This book is the epitome of what I think of when I think of Enemies to Lovers. Like, she literally tries to kill him on her wedding day. I love that. Another one that I feel like falls so perfectly under this category is Twisted Hate by Anna Huang, the 3rd book in the Twisted series, and it's in the title, Twisted Hate, and they do hate each other. It's so good, so much fun, and honestly, one of my favorite series of all time. Our next prompt is a book that features music. Now, when I think of this, I automatically think like musician, like rock star romance. That's like where my head goes, but there are a lot of different options for this. My first thought is a like more traditional music centered book, and that is Grip by Kennedy Ryan. He is a rapper. I wouldn't say this is super music centric, but it does obviously involve music at the forefront. Then we have something like Dark Notes by Pam Godwin, and the main character plays the piano. Obviously very music centric and definitely fits the prompt. Much darker and very intense on the trigger warning, so check this before reading it, but definitely fulfills the prompt. And then one of my favorite things to put together, we have a rockstar why choose romance with Lilac by B.B. Reed. One of my favorites. Definitely need to do a reread of this one, but it was so fun, and it's a standalone. I find that it's hard to find why choose rockstar romances that are actually standalones, so this is a good one. Alright, the next prompt is definitely more built if you are using this on a year-round basis, and that is to read a holiday romance. That being said, you could do any type of holiday. You could do like St. Patty's Day or 4th of July or Valentine's Day. Those definitely count as holiday. But when I think holiday romance, I think like Halloween and Christmas. So I'm going to recommend 3 books that fit into that category, but feel free to interpret this anyway. All 3 of these books are on the shorter side. The first one I want to talk about is Christmas in Quincy, the first book in the Edens series. Such a good one. It's set around the holiday season, and it's just a short, fun, wonderful read. So definitely one that I recommend. Then we have The Dare by Holly LaRoe. It is a Halloween romance. And Melt for Us is a spicy Christmas novella. Up next, we have TBR Vet, and that is to read a book that has been on your TBR for a really long time. Just another way to get books off of your shelves and hopefully motivate you to read some books that have been, collecting dust, ones that you've been pushing off for a little while. Sometimes we just need a little challenge. We're down to the very last line. We're getting there, and the next prompt is disability rep. So to read a book with any type of disability rep, however it is that you want to interpret that, whether it's called out in the synopsis or it is specifically said by the character or not, however you deem that like rep presentable, then you can do that. You could also do like mental illness rep or anything along those lines, anything that you feel fits the prompt. First one I'm going to talk about is Not My Type by Evie Mitchell. The main character is wheelchair bound, so definitely fits for the prompt. Heartless Heathens is another really good one. This one has a character that suffers from chronic seizures, so definitely counts. Only When It's Us has a deaf male main character, such a good sports romance. And you know I have to recommend a Kennedy Ryan. I feel like this is a really good one. This is Real by Kennedy Ryan. This one has chronic illness rep and it's so good. The main character has lupus. Getting to the end, our next prompt is to read a book with pink on the cover. In the spirit of romance, I chose the pink cover. Honestly, I could have done so many other things, but I felt like pink fit so perfectly that I had to do it. Now, you can interpret this any way you want. You can read a book with pink accents on the cover. You can read a book with predominantly pink on the cover. Or you can read something that's kind of in between. Our next prompt is to read a book told from multiple perspectives. These are one of my favorite books. I personally feel like all romance books should be told from multiple perspectives. You just get so much more depth in a story that way, and I love a good book with multiple POVs. First one I want to talk about is Mercy by Sarah Kate. I believe this is the 4th book in the series, but it does all of actually the books in the Salacious Players Club series are told from multiple POVs. We have a great dark romance, and that is That Sick Love by Jessie Hall, told from Arrow and Bryony's perspective. And then if you want a lighter, easier sports romance, we have Coach by Debney Berry. The second to last prompt on the board is Dark Romance, another one of my favorites. And if you are using this to do a full blackout and you don't usually read dark romance, this could be a great way to step outside of your comfort zone, but please check the trigger warnings before jumping into anything labeled dark romance. Make sure you're kind to yourself, but if you do read dark romance, this is just another excuse to pick up a good one. First one I want to recommend is There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. I feel like this is a very easy to read and easy to get into dark romance, so if you need something that's a little bit lighter, this is definitely a good one to go, but it is still dark. Then we have the classic Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton, the TikTok sensation that it is. It is very dark, definitely. Check those triggers before going in, but it's definitely a favorite of mine. Then we have another TikTok centric book, and that is The Ritual by Chantal Tessier. This is definitely one that took me by surprise, but I really enjoyed it. It is very dark, but such a good one. And finally, the last and final prompt that we have today, I don't have any recommendations just because it is definitely more based off of you, and that is to read a book with a character who looks like you. So a book that has a character that makes you feel seen. I feel like that's really important when reading romance books and books in general, is to have representation and books that make you feel like you could be the main character, whether you want to be in that position or not. But yeah, that is just a book that's totally up to your interpretation, and hopefully you find a good one that you really enjoy. Alrighty friends, that is everything on the bingo board and some recommendations to help you fulfill those prompts. Let me know if you're going to be using this for 2024, if you're going to be doing it as a monthly, quarterly, or yearly project. Feel free to let me know any books that you already have ideas for the prompts. I would love to know, or any recommendations that you have for the prompts themselves that you want to give other people in the comments. I want to say a huge thank you to my best friends, Nikki, Karina, and Dana, for helping me with these prompts and putting this board together. Their feedback and their eyes on this board has been so helpful, so I really appreciate it. And if you made it to the end of this video and you don't know anything else to comment, feel free to leave a heart emoji, preferably a pink one, but if you want to leave any other color, that's totally fine by me. That is the end of this video though. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and of course leave any comments, questions, and suggestions in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!
Baby, turn it down like a